Excited to be back here in Fresno. Good to be here at Fresno State, and excited to get a chance to take a few minutes and sort of share with you guys a little bit about my story. Most people know bits and pieces of it, obviously, and hopefully in the next few minutes I can give you guys a little bit more detail on exactly how I sort of got to become in this position and what it really took for me to obviously get to obviously develop wellness in my own life. Very much like you guys I know are trying to do with your own challenge here. But of course, back not too many years ago, in fact actually 10 years ago now, I used to weigh over 425 pounds. You can imagine that's a lot. And I was sort of in your shoes. I was a college student myself. I went to Indiana University back in 1998. I was a junior there, and I was a 20-year-old college student weighing over 425 pounds. And you can just imagine, never a good time in your life to be that heavy. But I think to be that heavy through high school and into college must be some of the worst times. And ultimately I had to get to that point, obviously, in my life where I was finally ready to make the changes to finally change. But at the same time, you don't just wake up one day and weigh 425 pounds. It takes years and years of poor decision-making, years and years of not caring about yourself, years and years of not listening to other people and other people's advice that obviously ever put me in that kind of position. And growing up as a little kid, I was a very normal weight. I did all the normal things that kids are supposed to do. I played Little League Baseball, rode my bike a lot, swam, was just very active up until about 3rd or 4th grade, and that's when things started to sort of change for me. And unfortunately, it was a combination of way too many video games, going on the internet and online way too often, eating way too much junk food, way too much fast food, and over a very quick amount of time, started to put on weight. And as I put on more and more weight, it exponentially went up and up and up. And it was a definite correlation that the more I would eat, the less I wanted to move, of course. The less I wanted to move, the more bored I became. And the more bored I became over time, the more I wanted to eat. So it just became a very, very vicious cycle. Starting in the 3rd or 4th grade, it became obviously harder and harder to break as I got older. And, of course, more freedom from my parents as I got older through middle school and into high school meant more access to food, more access to what I wanted to do. I was a very hard-headed kid growing up. I didn't want to listen to what everybody else had to tell me. I wanted to make my own decisions. I didn't think anybody else knew what was best for me. Certainly not my doctor, of course, God forbid. Certainly not my parents. Certainly not my family and my friends that cared a lot about me. And unfortunately, I just started to put myself in a really bad situation, as I said. And there was, by early middle school, I was playing 5 or 6 hours a day of video games in front of the TV every day, obviously eating way too much fast food, way too much junk food, and that combination is really what did it. And as I got heavier and heavier, everything else in my life started to unravel. My grades unraveled, my self-confidence went down, my self-esteem went down. Everything in my life started to sort of crumble as my weight continued to creep up and creep up and creep up. And by the time I was in high school, and got my driver's license, now I had access to fast food anytime I wanted it, day or night. No one had to know what I was doing, and became more and more difficult to control it. And for me growing up, it was never anything else. It was never it was never drinking, it was never smoking, it was never doing drugs, but my addiction was eating. And it's sort of the way I rebelled against my parents. It's the way I felt I had control of my life. And I can literally remember telling myself, well, you know what, I may not be able to lose weight, but if my parents make me mad enough, I could sure go out and put more weight on. And that was sort of the way I felt I had control. And obviously, it was a real self-destructive habit that I was developing. And by the time I was late in high school, and I had to wear obviously a 16-inch pair of pants and a 6XL in the shirt size, my life had really pretty much had disintegrated by that point. I was living very much minute by minute, hour by hour, never wanted to think fast the next day, never wanted to think down the road at all. I think if I started to think down the road, I would have probably gotten quite depressed and and sort of just managed to live with it by doing that. And, enrolled at Indiana University, and once again, between the dorm food and the fast food, my weight just continued to skyrocket upwards. And by the time I was a junior, early in my junior year, I weighed over 425 pounds, and obviously, was in a world of hurt and really needed to make some major changes. And I think I got to that point where I finally said enough was enough. I was ready to take that self-responsibility. Being a college student, as you guys know, is probably not the most healthy of times for most people in general. There's a lot of evil influences, I call them, in your life in college, and being healthy and that kind of thing is not always the top priority. I wish it was for me, obviously, back when I was in college, but it wasn't until later in college. And I finally said enough was enough. And after many failed attempts of losing weight, I had developed sleep apnea by this point, so no longer was it just an inconvenience in my life. Now I was actually having some major health problems that were starting to go along with it by age 20, and finally said enough is enough. I need to lose some weight. Now what am I going to do? How am I going to tackle this problem? First thing was going to the doctor's office. And when I got on the scale and I realized I weighed over 425 pounds, I couldn't believe it. Obviously, I always knew I was a big guy. I just think for years I was in denial of exactly how big of a guy I really was. And as I said, I was really, depressed by it. I was upset by it. Started trying all kinds of ways to lose weight. Everything the doctor would give me. I'd see things on TV. I'd try those. I would try everything. But I could never stick to anything. And lo and behold, finally, I found something that actually worked for me. And of course, as you probably know now, it happened to involve Subway sandwiches. When I was a junior in college, I lived literally right next door to a Subway restaurant. Literally 10 steps from my tiny little apartment to the front door of the Subway. And I went in one day back in 1998, and I picked up a nutritional brochure. That was nice. And I added up the fat grams and the calories, and said to myself, you know what? What if I were to eat 2 of these low-fat Subway sandwiches every day? What if I do a turkey sub for lunch? What if I do a foot-long veggie sub for dinner? But obviously this time, I'm not going to put the mayonnaise on it. I'm not going to put the oil on it. I'm not going to put the cheese on it. But I'm going to put all the vegetables on it. I'm going to do the baked chips as opposed to the fried chips, and I'm going to do diet soft drinks rather than all the regular soft drinks. And I said, you know what? It's worth a shot. It's a crazy idea, but I'm just going to give this a shot and see if this might work. And sure enough, doing that twice a day, every day, allowed me to lose a lot of weight very quickly. So much so, in the first 3 months of doing that, twice a day, every day, I lost 94 pounds in the first 3 months. Now, obviously, I was excited, I was motivated, I was fired up, but I realized I had to get off the couch still. I had to get moving, and at this point now I could actually start to walk again without having back pain and shoulder pain and neck pain and all these other pains. I said, I'm just going to try to, I'm just going to continue eating the Subway sandwiches, but now I'm going to try to walk as well. I went to a large university campus. I went to Indiana University, and I just started walking to classes. I took stairs and buildings. I parked my car in the back of a parking lot, make myself walk to the front. All these little things, and that coupled with the lower fat, lower calorie sandwiches, in 1 year I was able to drop right about 245 pounds, and obviously got my life back in the process, and felt much better about myself. Got myself confidence back. My grades went up. I mean, everything in my life started to improve again, all because I finally took that self-responsibility and I said enough was enough, and it felt great. And what's funny though is I never thought I'd ever be known for it. That was never my plan in life. But a buddy of mine wrote an article about me in the Indiana University newspaper, and that came out back in the spring of '99. And that article then got picked up by other newspapers and magazines all over the country. And eventually I got a call from Subway asking me about what I had done. And from there, the idea came to do a test commercial. And they flew me out from Indiana to Los Angeles to film the commercial. And we never looked back. The test commercial that sort of took off. Then the Oprah show called, the Today Show, Good Morning America, Access Hollywood, Entertainment Tonight, all these really cool shows. And here we are now 10 years later. And if you guys have been in a Subway lately, you've seen the big picture of me in the pants, and sort of talking about the 10-year anniversary of keeping the weight off, and it's been an awesome experience. But I'll tell you, I'm excited to be here today at Fresno State. I'm excited to see you guys participate in the wellness program, and as I said, it's neat to see people trying to finally take some self-responsibility a little bit themselves. You guys are at that stage right now where whatever habits you're having now are the habits you're going to take with you the rest of your life, and so hopefully you guys can make better decisions than I made myself growing up, and to the point when I was in college, and obviously hopefully never ever even get close to approaching the weight that I used to be. And obviously it's neat to see a proactive stance like this, and I think it's obviously after reading up on the wellness program here, the wellness challenge, I'm real excited that Subway got involved in it, and excited to be here obviously, and sharing my message as well. And you never know what's going to inspire somebody and give people a little bit of hope and a little bit of inspiration. So thank you guys very, very much. I'm going to turn the mic back over now, and I think we're going to go ahead and start doing some